Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. We've got 100 days to make a difference. 100 days to turn your company around and move into spring of 2021 and summer of 2021 with a sense of momentum, focus, purpose, energy. And by the way, it'll be increasingly easy to do because Bruce Arendt has finally rejoined us on WowBiz Nebraska. Thanks for joining me here. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker, and Bruce is here, man. So the conversation is going to be fully participative, integrative. I don't have to do it on my own. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Good to be back.
We missed you, and I got so many texts and emails about where is Bruce? Don't ask me exactly how many. Right. And so he's here, and we're going to tackle a topic, alliteration right off the bat.
Oh, I like that.
I like that. And we're going to dive into a really heavy and exciting and important strategic consideration, which is what do we do now exactly, Lynn and Bruce? And we've got an answer for you. It's going to take most of the entire show to discuss it and debate it and so on. And Bruce, are you ready to kind of dive into this? We call it the pivot. This is Pivot with the Pros. The pros would be us, obviously. Pivot with the pros and talking about your strategy going forward into, let's say, the middle of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another alliteration there. That's
another
good.
alliteration.
Like
they come out spontaneously.
Wow.
But anyway, you know, when I talk to business owners, I hear two ideas. Okay. And this will precede our discussion about strategy. One is most of them are kind of nervous, a little down, understandably. Yeah. It's been almost a year, not quite. And they've lost 30% of their revenue. Just so you know, that's a national statistic, right? 25% of all the companies in America are gone.
25%?
25%. They have closed their doors. And the remainders have lost 30% of their revenue, okay? So it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And so most of them, of course, know one way to operate. They buy something from a manufacturer, for instance. They get a wholesaler, and then they turn around and sell it at retail.
That's what they were doing when things were normal.
Exactly, right? And so when I visit with them about culture and how things are changing, they look at me quizzically and say, you know, we're going to do our best we can to adapt, but really what is there to do different than what we have already begun doing? Right? There's that question. When I talk to other people, a minority admittedly, they say, transformation, right? Reinvent ourselves. This is a whole new world. Many different things we're going to do. We're going to change the culture. We're going to change the product. We're going to get new distribution, digital, of course, much heavier on digital. A lot of people, here's the interesting, a lot of people think that 80% of our revenue selling going forward is going to be reliant upon digital.
Really? Yeah. I could see it.
80%?
Yeah.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
I mean, what if you're a salesperson, and there are a lot of them, going, see? Because a lot of them aren't that hip on the digital world.
Right.
They're ready to get out there.
They're used to the face-to-face.
Go face-to-face, you know, and that's very nerve-wracking. So anyway, and my point to them, and the point to our audience, Bruce, and I think we're going to get into this now, is that they, in fact, have many choices about how to position, rebrand, think about who they are, and different message.
And I'm sure a lot of people they know they have to make some kind of change, but they have no idea where to start, how do we even approach it.
No. So here's what we're going to do. We've got, as our audience will soon find out, we've got 16 strategic choices. Okay. All right? We'll keep it short, of course. But in order for them to relate, we're going to take them kind of like 4 at a time. We'll divide this into segments of 4, and we'll go throughout the entire show. Okay. All right? And in order for us to make this as meaningful as possible to our listeners, let's take 3 theoretical companies, prototype them, and then we'll judge the strategies, the 4 at a time, how they would apply to these three companies.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
So first, we'll say a tiny little company, maybe a couple of freelancers in social media, that work together and go out and get business. They share the profits 50-50 or something.
Right.
Just kind of a loose two-person company.
Just beyond a one-man band.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. The second, and there are a lot of those around.
Oh, tons.
More than used to be. So now, then we have the medium-sized company. This would be a company with maybe 50 employees.
Okay.
Maybe a family business that's been around 20, 25 years. Let's say in the heating and air conditioning business.
Okay.
These are the people that take care of the big heating systems on top of the roof and so on. It's a big deal. And they've been doing this for a long, long time.
Right.
And they work with engineers a lot, mechanical engineers.
But they're relatively local. They're not national.
Local, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, completely local.
Okay.
And not really sales. They might have like one sales or marketing guy.
Okay.
But they're really driven by a lot of technicians, frankly.
Okay.
And the family owner.
Okay.
So we've got them, and that's fairly common. And then on the third, let's say Mutual of Omaha.
I've heard of them.
And so we're talking about massive companies and divisions and coverage, geographic coverage in every state in the union, that kind of thing.
Right.
So now as we look at these strategies, let's think briefly about, again, going at them four at a time, which one would fit these three different kinds of companies.
Okay, that's interesting.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we'll be kind of loose about it. We won't be heavy, but understands that we've got a broad audience and they're wondering, well, gee, would that fit my kind of situation?
Yeah.
All
There's
right?
probably plenty of room for bleed, on this
Absolutely,
thing. Right,
absolutely.
right.
But the idea is that you have a choice, but the key thing is you got to implement the choice.
Yeah.
Just by saying it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And I think there's some big lessons there. So we'll take the first four. We've got a matrix here right in front of us on the desk. Our audience sees us looking at this as reference. We've got 16 boxes and 16 different strategies. So we'll take the top four, okay? And if you don't mind, why don't you read them off carefully and then we'll attack them.
Okay, the first is the aggregator.
Aggregator.
Okay, then category leader.
Uh-huh.
The consolidator.
Consolidator.
And the customizer.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now, right off the bat, I notice aggregator and consolidator kind of similar, right? Because they're pulling disparate things together.
Right.
And, but shall I go through it quickly?
Yeah.
Aggregator, I believe, is when you pull different companies and people and different resources together into a pile and say, all right, we're all going to work to create value together. Kind of like a strategic alliance.
Right, I was just going to say strategic alliance.
Exactly. And keeping all those people and technologies in particular kind of working together, aggregating resources, so that when they visit with a customer says, well, I'm kind of thinking I'd like to have a little of this. They go, no problem. We have an aggregate product line.
Right.
And we can solve that problem. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
All right. Why don't you go on to this? Tell us what a category leader would be.
Well, it would be somebody, in my mind, somebody who is at the very top of the food chain in a certain category. Let's just say it is an insurance company.
Okay.
And they are really the most well-known one, and people think of them first.
Yeah. So they'll be driven by awareness and advertising.
Right.
Be part of it.
Right.
Probably broad geographic stretch. And maybe a category leader, I'm assuming, gets awards. You see the billboards and with some of our medical systems here in the Omaha, Nebraska area, awarded #1. Different universities receiving awards and so on.
Or if you're an auto manufacturer, you're touting the fact that you won the whatever those awards are that they win on their cars.
So in other words, if you are a business that is drawn to this, you better have a high quality product and be ready to spend a disproportionate amount, maybe 5 to 10% of your funds on marketing and advertising, PR.
Because you have to maintain that momentum of the image.
That's right. That's right. So that's interesting. Now, this third one here is a consolidator. Do you have any idea what the difference?
I don't.
Okay. I think a consolidator is a company that buys bankrupt bits and pieces of things. So similar to an aggregator, but really pulling together bits and pieces of other companies, and they've probably been not done well, or they've dropped them, or whatever. All right, and not as tight. Aggregators sticks together for every service. Consolidator is something where let me pick up the phone and I'll get them over there involved in this.
Okay.
And consolidate our services, maybe just to do one deal.
Okay. You just sort of like you were like choreographing a dance between different companies.
I love that. Yeah, choreography would be a great metaphor for that.
Okay.
All right. And then finally, this one's a really hot one. Customizer would be the fourth one. Can you tell me a little bit about what you think that position would be?
Off the top of my head, and I think of, and I don't know, I would think it, of these two guys who have a freelance company.
Yeah.
They've got to be they're nimble.
Yeah.
They're quick. Not a lot of bureaucracy. They can do something quickly, and they can target in on a customer's needs really easily.
Yeah.
Or a lot more easily than a giant company.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I'm going to go the other way and say customizers are also big into personalization.
Okay.
Right? And AI, artificial intelligence, is now allowing big companies like Mutual of Omaha to send out, oh, we noticed that you bought this kind of a policy. That means you might be interested in this, this, and this.
Right. Yeah.
Lynn,
Yeah, that's true.
So that's kind of that angle. Personalization or customization is a huge thing. Yeah. A lot of small businesses can't keep up with it because you do have to buy technology.
And you see it every time.
Takes a lot of money.
Every time you happen to just look at something on your phone, all of a sudden you start getting things that are popping up. And you're going, how do they know?
Sometimes you hate it, sometimes you love it.
It's kind of creepy sometimes.
It's kind of creepy. All right, so we've got 4: aggregator, category leader, consolidator, and customizer. Those would be 4 categories right off the bat. Let me name these next 4 real quick before we go into our halftime. Disintermediary. All right, that's the internet. We'll get back to that. An experience provider. I love that. A fast follower. Very common in banking and other industries. And then finally, innovator. I got to tell you, these 4 right here, I'm pretty familiar with. Disintermediation is like in retail. I mean, Jeff Bezos says, don't go to the retail store, just buy the stuff directly from us. So that's disintermediation.
So that's what that is, okay.
Oh yeah, they go and past the middleman. And that's completely transforming retail. So a lot of retailers are watching this right now going, yeah, that's a bad trend. We don't like that at all.
Right.
Yeah. But then we go on to experience provider, and that favors, I believe, the retailer who's really got a feeling for getting the customer to interact with the product and kind of create the product with the customer. You see what I'm saying there?
And they feel good about buying the product.
Oh, they love it because they kind of feel like they almost contributed to it.
Right.
It'd be like a bakery where they're baking a cake for somebody.
Right.
And how would you like this? And how would it be? And you want to do this, and then you can take this home and put the stuff on top.
Or I think we've talked about it before. Is it called Tom's Shoes?
Yes.
Where you buy a pair of shoes and they donate a pair of shoes.
Yes, and you have pride.
Right.
Some people call it experiential branding. Similar idea.
Right.
Where it's partially mine as well. All right. Well, we're coming up halftime here. Bruce Arndt and I are excited about the options, the choices that you have as viewers here in WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to continue right after this halftime promotional thrust that we're going to do right here. But it's very exciting. Don't you find this interesting?
It's fascinating, yeah, when you really look at it.
There's so many things that we can, in fact, do.
Well,
and so we'll talk more about them in a minute. But I do want to move forward here and quickly and let you know that the sponsor for the show is Jim Beatty Golf Ventures. We've talked about Jim Beatty before. He's a great entrepreneur. Now, Jim Beatty Golf Ventures, he can figure out ways. Jim has been around for a long time. Everybody in the golfing community or industry knows him. He's also big in the economic development industry. He's one of those guys that can do 2 or 3 things simultaneously or make them converge. And I like entrepreneurs like that. But coming up soon here in February 19, just a few days down the road here, Jim has organized an event, a business mixer at Top Golf here in the Omaha area by West Roads, West Omaha. And it's going to be very exciting. It's about 2 hours from 7 to 9 p.m. on February 19th. I want to say this again because I'm hoping that we can get the show edited and get it out there and get as many people as possible to go to Top Golf, dynamite environment.
Right.
And then Jim really does have a way of pulling people together and making everybody feel good about themselves. They kind of let down their defensiveness and start to chat with each other. And when we do that, as you know, even if you're golfing and don't know anything about golf, you can have a good time, laugh a little bit, and really enjoy yourself in this incredible, massive, high-tech entertainment sports complex.
Well, I play about once every 5 years, so I'm
Yes.
pretty good.
I know you're good. I hadn't picked up a club for 25 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, I hadn't picked it up, and did okay.
Did you pick up the right end?
Barely, barely. Everybody else was hitting off the mat, and I said, "Can I still put it on the little T thing here?" And that gives me a little more of an edge here. But I did surprisingly well after a while, and. But the bottom line is, even if I didn't do well, the group there was having a good time with me.
And that's what makes it fun.
That's what makes it fun. And then in between, people say, well, what do you do? And how are you into this? And blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And that is the key. So many people want to get out now, the quarantine, they feel constrained and they haven't talked to anybody. They want to see new people. And so this is a wonderful opportunity to connect in a groovy environment.
Well, it's an innovative, different kind of a setting for a mixer. I mean, my goodness.
No, it really is. And there is a certain amount of latitude. You can kind of move around and move at the tables and snack and eat and drinks and so on. So it's a wonderful place for that. And I do suggest that you check out JimBeattyGolfVentures.com, or you can go to my website, growthdynamics.org. That's with an X on dynamics, growthdynamics.org. Both places have information about the event. Okay. And we're hoping that it'll be an exciting thing. We'll attract a lot of diverse opinions, ideas, people, a lot of big grins on everybody's faces. And then they'll all go home and watch WowBiz Nebraska. It'll be great. It'll be great.
The end.
The end. All right, everybody, I'm Len Hinderrocker, and I am here with Bruce Arendt. We are giving you substantive, meaty options. You might want to get a piece of paper and a pen and dig in and start scratching stuff down, because I tell you what, I'm giving you decisions right. This is center of the plate decision making.
Well, and it shows that there is hope. You know, there are options out there when we didn't think there might be options.
Yeah, and thank you for reiterating that, because a lot of people are like, what are they talking about? And you have choices. You have different ways that you can position your company. That's the key idea here. Reposition your company, maybe have a different message, maybe get some new products and new services, and emphasize or focus on an aspect of what you're doing differently. Mm-hmm. And pretty soon people are going, yeah, you know. But each one of these has a variation. So I'm going to mention them quickly, and then we'll dive into the next one. Okay. We talked about an aggregator strategy, pulling people together into one solution. A category leader, some prestige, quality. A consolidator, similar to aggregator, but pulling together more disparate parts for just one or two transactions. A customizer, personalization's huge, right? We know that. A disintermediator, in other words, you're going to go past your midman, go directly to the end user. That's a big decision, but e-commerce, that's it.
That's exactly what it is.
You know, it's so huge. An experience provider, you know, that's the kind of thing that you and I should get hired to help somebody do, because really it's a notion of interaction and feelings. What are people feeling as they're in the store, as they're handling our product, et cetera, you know what I mean?
Right, what's the vibe?
Yeah, what's the vibe? And when people walk out, people go, you know, I enjoyed that experience. A fast follower, let's talk about that.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, boy, I could tell you a story about a banker that I had a conversation with about this. He said, you know, Lynn, he said, we sit around and wait for some other banking operation to do an innovation. Mm-hmm. And then we see how it works. And then if it looks like it works well, then we do it, we copy them, and we make it about 3% better than they do. Huh.
But they don't want to be the guinea pig.
No, they don't, and they don't think that the people that come up with it the first time are naturally going to be the leaders. And frankly, most of the time, if you are the one who pioneered the innovation, most of the time you're going to be leading the category. Mm-hmm. But again, people who follow this feel like, well, by the way, the Japanese did this back in the 80s and 90s. They would not innovate so much, but they would wait and let other companies start things. They'd watch. Mm-hmm. Procter & Gamble did this. They actually paid people from around the world to make suggestions from their country and their community, things they stumbled across, take a picture and send it to us. Huh. That was called open innovation, right? And so then they'd look for it, and then they would say, oh, man, something's happening in Sweden. We could probably do that with our deodorant here that we sell, or whatever.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
I had no idea.
No, it goes on all the time. Speaking of innovation, there we are, right? Here's this next box. This is something we discuss a lot. Yeah. You know, I read recently that 90% of all innovation initiatives fail.
I would
90%.
believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those that succeed, those companies make about 150% more than everybody else.
Right.
Right. So it's a tough game to get into if you
really
don't know what
risky
you're
on the
doing.
front end.
A little bit of risk, but of course then we have this whole wave of entrepreneurs, and Eric Ries wrote this book called The Startup Meeting or The Startup Company or whatever, and his attitude was, it's all learning. In fact, go after it, go get it. If you see an opportunity, cobble together a product or some situation, maybe a new division or whatever, go after it. Know that you're probably not going to succeed, but that's okay. Get into it, tweak it, change it, see what's going on, relaunch, succeed.
It's Thomas Edison with a light bulb. I mean, how many times did he fail? Like
10,000.
something like that. Was it right?
10,000. 10,000 times.
But then,
Yeah. I wonder what his wife said. Really,
we probably,
Tom?
we probably can't repeat
This
it.
has been about 6,722, Thomas. How long do we go on with this? Well, let's make some money.
Yeah.
Anyway, then along comes Tesla.
Oh,
Huh?
yeah.
Blew him out of the side. All right, anyway.
Anyway,
So,
that's a whole other story.
so let's talk about, we have a few more strategies. Why don't you read these off carefully?
Platform provider.
Oh, yeah. Think about Nebraska now.
Okay.
Yeah. Then continue.
A premium player. A regulation navigator.
Yeah.
And a reputation player.
I like those four categories.
I'm going to have you, expound on these though, because I'm.
Well, the platform provider is a big deal. In the cover of Harvard Business Review about 2 years ago, it said, if you don't have a platform, you're going to be out of business in a few years. And we created Nebraska just recently, as we know. And the notion of platform is getting multiple companies on a website feeling like they can contact each other and create value between them or sell things to them. It's kind of a community feeling. Some people call it an ecosystem.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a big new idea that sophisticated companies are embracing, and industries as well, just like complete industries. So that's a big deal.
Nebraska is a perfect example.
Nebraska is a really good example. What about this here?
Premium player. Now, how does that differ from a category leader?
Well, I think category leader is a matter of awareness and kind of like mainstream awards. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But the premium player, that would be, I don't know, Mercedes at the high end, where they really don't care about quantity. It's really about, in fact, they'll invest disproportionately in the quality of the product just so they can win a reputation or somehow, attract the elite.
Because they are the highest quality.
And nobody doubts it. That kind of a thing.
Right.
And then out of that comes some various interesting opportunities, but their attitude is nobody is better in this particular way.
If you're going to make a widget, you make the best widget.
Make the best widget, make sure that only the smartest and wealthiest people know it. All right, so then what do we have here?
A regulation navigator.
A regulation navigator. Recently some legislation had been passed and some laws in Nebraska talking about trying to get broadband, I think even 5G, broadband transmission across the entire state.
Okay.
And it's a very scientific, technical thing.
Oh, yeah.
Not the easiest thing to do the right thing. And so these are people that have attorneys and a lot of scientists on their side, and they know how to sell and distribute and make a profit, even though their product from the outside doesn't look any different than the guys that were told to, don't do that, you're not allowed to. They're navigating the line.
Okay.
And they know what they're doing in that regard.
Interesting.
And then here, right, a reputation player.
Yeah, a reputation player.
Yeah, now I would think the category leader and reputation player would be similar, but I think the reputation player is again, people that are working with referrals. And their sales organization this category leader is the one that's published in the magazines.
Right.
The reputation players, I think, are the savvy sales guys that are saying, I got a great network, he'll get me in front of this person.
Very solid referral
Solid referral network.
network. Yeah.
Now, moving very quickly because we're running out of time here, I'm going to say these quickly.
Okay.
A risk absorber, interesting. A solutions provider, that's very hot. A value player, sounds like Taco Bell to me 30 years ago. And then finally, suggest a pure tone. Should we talk about this?
Yeah, what is that?
A pure tone is about a frequency that resonates. A vibratory frequency, right? So there are companies that are typically led by charismatic individuals, or they have maybe a philosophy that is kind of cutting edge and hip, and if you don't get it, then you don't get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are companies around here like that, that attract a certain breed of cat.
Right.
Creative firms, by the way, try to get into that groove right there, because everybody else knocks off everybody else, and they're cheaper and da-da-da-da-da. But Harry is a weirdo, but Harry is brilliant, and we all love him, so come to work here.
Okay.
And then good things come out of that. I do want to say value player is a very interesting position, strategic position these days, because like Taco Bell 30 years ago, and of course at that point, beans were cheaper than hamburgers, so you could have a value menu you could sell a taco for 49 cents and still make a 22% profit.
Wow.
McDonald's couldn't do that with hamburger. Right? So now, today, we're in the value revolution 2.0, because the cost in the digital world, what's the real cost of buying something? It's really the cost of putting it together and integrating it with something else. But the chips, nothing, right? So there's a lot of variability there in terms of providing great value.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
It's all based on margins.
It's all based on margins, yeah, and the cost of supply side. You know.
Right.
All right, well, here we are in WowBiz Nebraska. We have analyzed scantily, to be sure, 15 or 16 strategies, but every single one of them gives you a new choice, a new way to present your company, go forward, build your new business, your old business, around this new positioning, this new opportunity, create new energy within your culture. Say, we're going to be a fast follower. We're going to be the reputation player. We're going to go down this road, and by June 1st of 2021, we're going to have new momentum. It's much like when Bruce Aaron joins us here at WowBiz Nebraska. We have new momentum all the time. We'll see you next time, right here at WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. We'll see you next time. Make the right decision. See you next time.